Hi, I'm Radha Eswar. I'm an architect by qualification, but I just love trees and plants. Very passionate about them and wanted to do work with trees and plants. We had a great passion. We wanted to fill this city, this garden city, with lots of plants and bring back the old glory. Wanted to get into every home if possible, every campus, every office, every institution, schools, everywhere, and teach people about planting using native plants. Because a few years back, when I did not know as much as I do today, I built my home and I had a gardener come and set up my garden at home. And I'll never forget, he just came in, he laid a lawn of Mexican grass and planted a pine tree in the center and said that was it. So I wondered, was that all that Bangalore could give me in my little garden? I accepted it at face value. Then as I went around, I could see the same kind of thing, exotic plants bordering a huge lawn, usually Mexican grass or Korean grass and things like that. And invariably those would smell of so much of chemicals when you passed by. And at home also, the gardener came back after some time and sprayed it with chemicals. My kids were small. I could not let them go and play in that lawn. And even if they just stood nearby, they would come back with a wheeze or a cold, and had some sore throat. So I really did not feel that gardens were safe places for children until I learned by myself that gardens needn't be like that. Gardens need not be dangerous for children. It was being made so by the kind of things that we put into the garden. Another experience, went to a farm. The farmer showed us a lot of beans and carrots and radish that he had planted, but he was spraying away merrily chemicals without thought about how poisonous it would be for the people in the cities who ate those food. And when it was time for me to leave, I said, I would like to go home. He said, why don't you take some vegetables? I said, no, I saw you spraying so much of chemicals on those vegetables, I do not want it. He said, no, I have another set of vegetables that I grow only for myself up above the rest of the land near my house. I never spray any chemicals there. I'll give you from there. This is for the market. He spoke like as though, things from the market just went to some not human beings. So all these things, set me to think that in the name of commerce, we were doing a lot of crime. And these were things that people were not paying attention to. It was happening on an everyday basis, and people who just had no time to think about it, rushing to offices, rushing their children to school, they did not understand the implication of all these things. And there was just the rush of living life itself. Then I came across another curious thing. You see, you had many people migrating into the cities, from the villages, and most of them were farmers, people with farming background. They became all kinds of people here in the city. One section of these people became gardeners. These gardeners, however, just resorted to planting exotic plants because only these plants were available in the nurseries. And they knew that these plants had to be fed all the pesticides and the fertilizers that the nursery people have. So they just did not use any of their traditional knowledge, didn't put it to use at all. They just followed what the urban folks were used to and what the nurseries were compelled to sell. So this made us think, that there had to be something done to this whole scenario. So we first started trying to plant native plants within homes. We offered our services as offering to design home gardens and to plant native plants in those gardens. We had a beautiful service by which we offered to write about these plants in a booklet and give it to people. People really loved it, but then it was an overkill because here we were as architects trying to design something using only native plants, yes, but so much of our time was being spent on just a home, and the client had to pay for all that time that we spent there. And on the other hand was this gardener. he was probably a wiser man because he knew traditional plants, native plants, and he knew how to work around them. He was used to them, but he was not using that knowledge at all in the cities because nobody was asking for it. So we said that there was a disconnect, even when we were trying to offer services to do home gardens. There was a disconnect because we were not paying attention to another group of people who knew about these things already, at least to some extent. We sat these gardeners down, we spoke to some of them, and we discovered that they could pick up the knowledge that we have quite nicely, and they could become social entrepreneurs themselves if only they had a few more skill sets added to their repertoire. So this made us try it out with one or two people. And we have trained these gardeners. We in fact take a promise from them that they will use only native plants for planting, and then we teach them a lot many things of how to handle folks in the cities. And because these people by nature are very submissive, and they are used to saying yes to everything. You ask them for help with something that they can't do, their first answer is yes, they will do it. And then they will make mistakes doing it. These are problems that city folks don't have patience or cannot spend time trying to unravel. So we sit and talk to them about committing to things that they can do, and about being firm about the kind of plants that they will plant, about how they would not use chemical pesticides at all, no chemicals as fertilizers at all, but how that these plants would require only very less intervention at all from us in terms of fertilizers, or and that too it could be something organic and not chemical based, and that these hardy plants needed much lesser water, only up to 30% of water that the regular some of the exotic plants do. Whenever I say exotic plants require more water, many architects, landscape architects like to gun me down and say, no, not all our exotic plants are like that. So, but that may be so, but still those exotic plants don't attract the kind of biodiversity that is possible, the kind of insects and butterflies and birds that are possible with our native plants. So these we teach the gardener. He knows it already. It's not like he needs to be taught this. It's just that we have to inform him that the knowledge that he knows already is good knowledge, and that it is very essential for the city folks, and that he has to have the courage to be able to stand up and say that this is good knowledge and not the other.